Hello, and welcome back to Recycled Grace. This week we're going to be talking about growth, which is honestly the one part of Recycled Grace that I am struggling the most with, and I had to do a lot of thinking and praying and talking about what I wanted to even discuss about growth, because it feels a little elusive to me, because it's something that I'm constantly striving for. I don't know, talking about forgiveness, it just seemed easier because it's something that is just part of my daily life. Whereas talking about growth, I just feel like I fail so much. And that is part of the growth process, but growing is such you make small changes and it's not something that's so obvious. And just the other day I was on Instagram and I was posting something that I had seen on Pinterest that just inspired me. That's what I try to do on Pinterest. I try to find inspiration for whatever I'm trying to survive that day. And there was this picture. I love butterflies. I've always loved butterflies, and I feel like they're like a gift from God. And butterflies are just this beautiful reminder that you can transform. And that the process, yes, it's painful, but that beauty comes from ashes, if you will, or beauty comes from a place of pain. It can come from, like, when you're trying to grow, when you're trying to heal, it just comes from sometimes really dark places. Like you feel like you're in a cocoon and you feel like nothing's changing, and then all of a sudden you're flying. So I found this great quote, which I want to share with you, about growth. And it's this beautiful picture of this pale pink butterfly wing, and it's by Rebel Thriver. I don't know who that is, but I really loved the picture of the butterfly. It just captured me right away. And it says, "The butterfly is only beautiful because the caterpillar is brave." And if that doesn't embody what growth is, I really don't know what does. So I had to ponder what I wanted to say about growth, because like I said, it's the one part of Recycled Grace that I was not looking forward to writing about or talking about. And I think that I'm like, even right now, struggling with coming up with the words that I want to say about growth. And I even like wrote some stuff down and jotted it down so that I knew what I wanted to say, but I'm struggling. So the first point that actually works really well with the fact that I'm struggling is that growth is uncomfortable. Anytime you make a conscious decision to grow and change, it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be painful, because you're going to have to peel back layers that you have put up as armor, in my case, to stop myself from being vulnerable, to pretend like I have everything together, and to keep people at a safe distance. And the whole growth process has really been slow going and challenging, and oftentimes I don't even see like the results. Oftentimes I feel like I mess up so much more than I actually improve. And then it'll be strange, because I'll be sitting with maybe a group of friends, or I'll be sitting with my husband, and they'll just talk about like how much I've grown. And that's shocking to me, because I don't see it, because the changes are so subtle. I guess the only way that I can actually see the evidence of growth is if I just look back on who I was 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 7 years ago. And yeah, I'm not the same person. I mean, there's parts of me, of course, that are always going to be the same. The silliness, the quirkiness, the love of art, the love of creativity. I don't think that's ever going to change. I think it's core to who I am. I never would have went on a YouTube channel and talked about my weaknesses or my pain. I would have never allowed strangers into my vulnerability. I would have been terrified, petrified of what people thought of me. And the fact that I'm like 60 pounds overweight, or over the weight I'd like to be, and being on a YouTube channel, that right there is growth. Because I would have always just put it off until I am perfect, until I look good enough, until I look like I have it all together. man, it would have been just so fake, so false. So yeah, I think I have grown, and it has been incredibly uncomfortable, but necessary. So I guess like drawing it back to that butterfly. I think for so long I just was comfortable being a caterpillar, because change and growth is stepping outside of your comfort. It's stepping inside of chaos. And it's changing sometimes things that you don't even necessarily feel like you need to change. Maybe you like the food that you eat even though it's not good for you. I know that that's a struggle for me. Maybe you like zoning out with the television. I feel like growing and doing the things that we're supposed to do, we oftentimes don't want to do them, and so we push them to the back burner and we push them aside. Growth is incredibly uncomfortable, but if the butterfly hadn't been a caterpillar and the caterpillar hadn't been brave enough to like go through that process of pain and go through discomfort, then the butterfly would never learn how to fly. It's such a timed event too, of when the butterfly is actually able to leave the cocoon. I don't know, I read somewhere that if you open up a butterfly cocoon and you help it along its way and you don't allow it to struggle, I guess the struggle will help strengthen the wings and it'll never really learn how to fly. And that's just so devastating to me, this idea of a caterpillar spending all that time in a cocoon, all those, I would assume, really painful changes to go from a worm to a butterfly. I don't even know if a caterpillar is a worm, but it looks like it. And then to have somebody just come along and they think they're helping the process, but what they're really doing is hindering the growth. And the butterfly never fulfills its purpose, to flutter, to soar, to pollinate. I don't think there's anything more sad than that. A life devoid of purpose. So yeah, growth is uncomfortable. I sat with my counselor because I really didn't know how to begin this video or how to begin the blog. I just felt so stuck in my own thoughts. Like it just felt like a big knot inside of my brain, and I needed to work through it. I needed to pull at the strings and try to just come to some understanding of what I thought of when I thought of growth. And so of course I talked with my counselor about this, and she said something that just really resonated with me. She said that growth is not linear. That most people, when they think about growth, they think about it going from like point A to point B in just a straight line. And that's not growth. Growth is more like a dot graph. So you go forward 2 steps and make your little mark, and then something pushes you back. You fail. And some people, they just like stop there. They don't want to continue the process because the process can be painful. But she said, as long as you're failing forward, you're growing. I just love that idea, failing forward. Because isn't that life? Isn't that the process of just adulting? You wake up in the morning and you fail, but you move forward. And so when you think about it, we're all growing, just maybe not at the speed that we want to grow at, but we are all growing. We are all maybe mindlessly growing because we're failing forward. And if you just give yourself a little bit of grace and realize that the next point, growth is eternal, that you're never going to get to this destination of perfection, this side of eternity at least. That it's always going to be a process. There's always going to be something that you need to grow through, always. And that you might hit your goal, or you might hit a destination for something, but then there's another thing, another goal, another opportunity to grow from. And I think if you keep that in mind, that growth is not linear and growth is eternal. And yeah, growth is incredibly uncomfortable. And you give yourself grace in the process. And even if you fall backwards, even if you completely jack up, even if you do not reach the goal that you set out for yourself, you failed forward. Even if you crawled to get there, even if you sat down and said, I'm not moving today. Well, okay, maybe I'll move tomorrow. Because I think the only way you don't grow is if you choose not to grow. It's like a choice. It's an absolute rebellious act of, no, I'm going to change, but I'm not going to grow. Because I think you can physically change. I mean, I know getting older, I physically change even if I don't want to physically change. You know, waking up in the morning hurts more now than it did when I was 30. And getting little like gray hairs, so pretty, little glitter, right? Up in my like crown of my head, little glitter. change is going to come. Change is going to come. Growth may not. So it's a choice. Be as brave as the caterpillar, fail forward, be uncomfortable, realize you're going to make mistakes, like a grip of mistakes, and give yourself grace and just persevere through it, man. Every single person is growing from something or changing. Every single person is surviving something. You're not the first you're not the first one to go through what you're going through, and you won't be the last. So just I feel like it's just make this decision and say, you know what? I want to be better. I want to be better than I was yesterday. And I think if you just choose to be better, then it's like being good isn't enough. Like being a good person, that's not enough. But choosing to be better, I think that's like this realization that sometimes you're not. It's like this acceptance that you're not always a good person. It's this acceptance that you're going to mess up and you're going to get knocked down a peg, maybe two. And it's going to hurt until it doesn't. Until you take like that step forward and you look back at how far you scrambled to that position. And in that moment, you see the evidence of your growth. And what's even more beautiful is when people come to you and they ask for assistance in their growth process. You can mentor people as they're failing forward. And I can honestly say that's one of the most beautiful things. It's one of the reasons I decided to do this podcast. It was, man, I've had a lot of growth. Why not share it with other people who are suffering through the process and help them realize that it's not all in vain. I really hope that you got something from all of this rambling. I know I'm going to have a lot of work trying to piece this together, but in all honesty, I'm grateful for the work that I've done. I'm grateful for the fact that I made it a conscious decision to not stay the same. I made a conscious decision to step outside of my comfort zone. I made a conscious decision to grow, and that is totally part of the process of healing. TTFN, ta-ta for now.